Okay, so you clicked on this video because you want to be an absolute academic weapon. Do you want to effortlessly excel in class? Do you want to be the student that other people admire? Do you want to never have to pull an all-nighter again? I will teach you the steps that I take to achieve all of these. Hi, I'm Michael, I'm a student at Brown University, and welcome back to my channel. Make sure to stick around until the end to learn the one thing that most outstanding students fail to prioritize. I don't care if I didn't get enough sleep, I don't care if I didn't eat breakfast, there is nothing that will stop me from going to lecture. Attending every lecture is necessary, which leads me to step 1 of being an academic weapon. Ask one question at every lecture. And no, not can I use the restroom. Whether it be before, during, or after class, I find it so important to be formulating questions on the material, not only to make sure that I understand the material, but also to make sure that I'm engaged in the lecture. Because by the process of forming questions, I'm inherently becoming more engaged in the lecture and the material that's being presented. At a review session this semester, I would literally ask so many questions that the prof would cycle around to other students and then go back to me to make sure that he was being fair to everybody else. Because I swear that I have so many questions on the material, especially before a big midterm or exam, because I want to make sure that I understand everything that's being taught. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. In fact, one piece of life advice that I learned is that if I have a question, 99% of the time, a lot of other people have that question and are just too afraid to ask it. So even if I think a question is really simple, I'll ask a classmate next to me before I ask a question that I think is sort of simple, but I will usually ask a question in class if it's on the general lecture material. Step 2 of being an absolute academic weapon is to dress nicely for class. Nicer than you would think to dress. In other words, when I was a freshman in the fall, I would often go to class wearing sweatpants and hoodies and the likes, and even during midterms and exams, I would walk in with the general outfit of a burnt out college student, of the sweatpants, the hoodie, basically anything that felt comfortable. But what I came to realize is that wearing nicer attire not only makes me look better, but it also makes me feel better, because I know that I look better than if I were to be wearing sweatpants. So I basically have never worn sweatpants unless I'm going to the gym to work out. I never wear workout clothes unless I'm going to work out. So I basically just did a wardrobe overhaul and started to prioritize looking better for class and looking better during exams. And I believe that that is translated into being a more successful student. Step 3 is to do schoolwork every day. Now, I knew friends who, for example, would take off one day of a week to not do any sort of studying. And while I do admire that sort of system, I just simply do not find it to be effective in general, because being an effective student is about making a habit of studying. It's not about forcing yourself to spend hours in the library. It's about having the discipline to go and study every single day for a certain amount of time, even if we don't want to. The thing about midterms and exams and papers is that if I simply stretch out the amount of time I take to study, and I effectively study and plan for what I'm supposed to do during those times, then I won't be as stressed for studying on the midterm the weekend before, the few days before the midterm is actually planned to be. I don't care if the exam is 3 months away or 1 month away. Finals all happen at one time of the year, and in general, I need to study every single day to effectively and efficiently study without having to try to cram the day before or the few days before the midterm. And retention is better for me when I study over a longer period of time. 1, because I'm more calm when I'm studying the material, but 2, if I actually don't understand the material, I can take the time to review a subject more slowly and in depth until I fully understand the topic that I'm actually learning about. I make flashcards for certain subjects like biology, but the thing is that if I don't understand what the flashcards are talking about, the flashcards are literally useless. It's more about connecting the harder and long-term concepts in my brain and mapping everything to a connection that makes sense in my mind that helps me to understand the topic at a broader sense and then helps me to apply the concepts when I'm asked about them on an exam. And by studying every single day, if I have a question, I can go to office hours when it's not the day before the midterm and it's packed with other students trying to ask questions. And then when the midterm paper or final rolls around, I'm actually prepared to study for the final for a much shorter amount of time than I would be if I were to not look at any of the material besides the week before the exam. Step 4 is to never pull an all-nighter. A general philosophy I have in life is that nothing good ever happens after 2 a.m. And that is especially true for studying, because I find that when I wake up at a normal time during the day, I do not have the mental capacity to retain very difficult concepts or to study effectively after the 2 a.m. mark. I used to stay up very late studying and take naps very late in the evening, and I look back now at what I did, and I just understand how much better it is to actually have a normal routine during the day and to leave studying behind after late in the night. Everybody has a different time that they study effectively, and for me, I have a habit of looking at my biology flashcards as the first thing when I'm studying. But if I were to stay up past 2 a.m. to do some sort of studying, 1, my brain's not going to truly remember the information. 2, I'm going to be stressed because I know that I'm not going to get much sleep. 3, I'm going to wake up with less hours of sleep for class and then just be less effective the next day. So in general, staying up past 2 a.m. is just not an effective study tactic. And being an academic weapon is not about spending hours at the library or spending hours into the night trying to finish an assignment. It's about studying efficiently and effectively, so over time you can study less and not cram and understand the material at a much deeper level. There's something nice about investing in anything that you're pursuing, and that rings especially true for studying in academics. Right now to study, I use a laptop and an iPad, and in some cases a physical notebook if it's necessary for a certain lab class, for example. But before, when I was using a binder to organize all of my materials, I found it very cumbersome to carry so many different binders in different subjects, especially in high school. But when I switched to using an iPad or an electronic device to record my notes that were handwritten or typed, I found it to be much more efficient and elegant, and it made me more excited to study because I didn't have to load all these papers around. So in a sense, investing in some sort of material that would help me study made me more eager to learn and to expand my knowledge in a certain subject. Also, with a laptop, I find it so important to make sure that I don't have room for distraction when studying. So I recently transitioned to using an Apple laptop from a Windows laptop, and one of the biggest changes that I found was that my iPhone messages could connect to the laptop messages on my phone. And while I found it to be very convenient to do so, I just knew from the start that if I tried answering messages from my laptop, for example during class, I would just distract myself so much because any sort of message or notification that I got would go straight to my laptop. So immediately I just deactivated the Messages app on my laptop and deleted the app from the entire software. I still had my phone on just in case somebody wanted to call me for any reason and to give me a notification to do so, but messages are not welcome on my laptop. Also, don't take breaks between classes. And I know that it sounds terrible, but it's not as bad as one might think. In general, when I have a class that has, for example, the hour gap between a 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., the only thing that I think that is necessary to do during that time is to do some sort of task that will help you to study or something that will get you done with something for the day. In other words, I would use that time for some personal necessities such as chores, laundry, or shopping, or I would do it for some academic purpose such as looking for my emails, studying flashcards, or going to office hours. So it still acts like a break, but it's just a productive break. Also with procrastination, there's the idea of effectively procrastinating. So if I don't want to write a paper, at least I can do my laundry to distract myself in the meantime. And of course, this isn't the guide to beating procrastination, but doing something productive rather than going on social media is one of the best ways to actually get stuff done, even if you're procrastinating one bigger assignment. But in general, that's one habit that can change procrastination for the better. Also, if you made it this far into the video, comment your favorite way to productively procrastinate. On a side note, if I do laundry during the middle of the week during some random break in the morning or afternoon during classes, the laundry machines also won't be packed with other people trying to use them, so it's a win-win situation overall. But if I have the chance, I do try to schedule my classes in a row. So for my Monday classes, I have 3 of them in a row, one after the other, and then I'm done with classes for that day. But it is inevitable that there will be some odd breaks during the day. Step 7 is to explore interesting classes every semester. In other words, at every college there should be some sort of time in which you can explore classes. And at Brown we have a specific period called shopping period where we can go into any class and simply sit down and listen to the lecture and see what the class has to offer. But in other colleges, if this system isn't in place, there's always the opportunity to join and drop classes. And it's so important to look at any sort of classes that you might have an interest in. In other words, when I was shopping during the spring of my freshman year, I would look into so many random classes, whether it be an archaeology class on Roman and Mediterranean architecture, or an economics class on fiscal policy in the US, or a language class in Spanish. A bunch of different topics that I had some minor interest in that I might consider pursuing. And sometimes I found classes that I really enjoyed, and sometimes I found classes that I didn't enjoy as much. So I'm never afraid to sign up to random classes that I have a random interest in because I'm never sure about what I'll find and what the university has to offer. Perhaps the most important tip to being an absolute academic weapon is step 8, or seek out phenomenal achievers. There's a saying that I am the sum of the 5 people that I hang around the most with. And it rings so true in all of life. So if you want to become an academic weapon, you have to find the other academic weapons in your school. So if I see a student who's very studious, I make an effort to introduce myself. And I don't see it as networking, I just see it as a genuine interest in somebody and wanting to admire the habits and the productivity that they have for that class. Everybody has a different lifestyle that they live, and just making the effort to learn about how people do all the things that they do is so interesting, and it will teach me so much about life in college and life in general. So at whatever stage I am in a class, I always try to reach out to people who I see are doing very well and ask them for advice, or to ask them what they do to study effectively. And in a general sense, it's always great to have people I know in each class as a familiar face to remind myself that I'm not alone in the class that I'm doing. Now, all that is well and good, but perhaps one of the most important pieces of advice that outstanding students fail to prioritize is to seek out fun. In other words, college is a great experience, but it's not like the movies where people are going to simply reach out to you and you're going to stumble upon random and fun experiences. I try to make an effort to seek out fun and interesting things that I can do, whether it be during the weekday or during the weekend or any sort of random time. And I always try to make an effort to prioritize social activities over studying in most cases. Obviously, if I have a midterm the next day, I'm not going to spend hours with friends trying to do some random activity. If you want more college advice, be sure to check out my video on the truth about college success and my playlist on college advice. Thanks for watching, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell, and I'll see you next time.